Go is played by two players who alternate placing stones on the board. The first player starts with the black stones, with the white stones going to the second player. A Go board is rectangular, with 19 lines and 19 columns on it. There are also 13 by 13 and 9 by 9 variations. Stones are placed on intersection, not inside the squares, and a stone placed on the board is not moved unless it is captured. The player with the most points at the end of the game wins. There are two ways to get points. First, use your stone to surround intersections. Each intersection is worth 1 point. Second, by capturing your opponent's stones. Each stone captured is worth 1 point. Keep in mind here that the intersection where the stone was placed still counts as 1 point. Black plays here, captures the stone. He gets 1 point for the stone and 1 point for the intersection. Capturing stones. Stones are captured when they're enclosed by stones of the opposite color. Now here's how this works. A stone placed on the board will always have adjacent intersections, these. These diagonals do not count. So this stone here has 4 liberties. If white wants to capture this stone, he needs to take away each of these liberties. This works for groups as well. If black had a larger group, say like this, these stones are connected, meaning that each liberty that these stones have all count. So this group has 8 liberties. If white wants to capture these stones, takes away every single one. And then finally, the stone is in Atari and gets taken 3 points for the stones and 3 points for the liberties inside. Remember, the diagonals do not count as liberties. Here, these stones are not connected and they each have 6 liberties. Diagonals don't count. Here's a little interesting example. Since diagonals don't count, it's theoretically possible to have 2 groups like that kind of look like they're connected but don't share liberties. So this is actually 2 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 liberties. And then this stone that has 4. That's the basics. Now let's get to more fiddly stuff. The no suicide rule. A stone cannot be placed on an intersection where it would have no liberties, or if it would remove the last liberty of their own group. To explain the no suicide rule a little bit better, if we consider this position, white cannot play inside this area here because if it would play there, it would automatically lose all the liberties. In this program here, it just doesn't allow it. The move is suicidal. Now, this also works for larger groups. Consider this. Say black would play here. White would then not be allowed to play here. Move suicidal. Co is when this happens. In this situation, each player can theoretically just keep capturing each other because the stone used to take the opponent's stone is then an Atari. Yes, like the game company. When a stone or group of stones has 1 liberty left, it is considered to be an Atari. Because of the Co rule, the second player cannot take the stone black and must play elsewhere first. This does not stop the players from playing the Co on subsequent moves. This is one of the most complicated things for beginners to understand. Luckily, it does not come up often in any meaningful way in beginner play. Here in the upper right of this board is an example of a ko. I played as white here and took the black stone in the ko shape. This is called taking the ko. Black, because of the ko rule, can't just take the ko back and must first play elsewhere. I decided to respond to the move that black plays, which then allows black to take the ko. The same ko rule applies to me, making this move illegal, so I play somewhere else. After that, both players play some other moves nearby, but the ko is still on the board and could be taken at any point. The ko rule does not prevent people from playing the ko on subsequent moves. Keep in mind here that not all ko's are worth fighting for in this way, just so happened that this one was. The game ends when either player resigns or they both pass. That is, both players decide that they no longer want to place moves on the board. One player can pass and the other can continue playing. The game just continues. Both players must pass for the game to end. Here's a 9x9 game that is over. So how do we know it's an over? There are no disputed areas of the board. There are no areas where I could play inside white's territory and reduce them. But if we consider, say, a common site for beginners to leave kind of unfinished is something like this. Here, I could continue in extending inside white's territory and just white would continue to lose points. So if white passes at this point in the game, we'd be losing points because black just continues playing. So white needs this to play this last move. Every intersection surrounded by white stones is a point for white. The same goes for black. Intersections that are empty but adjacent to stones of both colors do not count as points for anyone. Stones that are captured are counted, each being worth 1 point. And finally, 6.5 points go to white for letting black start. Whoever has the score at the end of this wins. Here's an example of a very passive game. On this left side is pretty squarely black's points, and this left side is pretty squarely white's points. Notice that the middle of the board does not count because these intersections are being touched by both stones. Stones still on the board, but both players agree that the stone will eventually be captured if both players continue playing, still counted as points. Let's consider this stone here that I've marked number 1. No matter how many moves are played, this black stone will be captured. So it counts as 1 point, as well as the intersection below it still counts as a point. In fact, it is not beneficial to white to start playing inside this area, because white will then lose the point for the intersection that played. By playing inside one's own territory, you lose points. Doing this would be really bad for white. He's filling the intersections that would count as points for them. Because of the potential to be handing your opponent points by playing inside their territory, it's generally not a good idea to do so, unless there is enough space for you to make some points of your own. Now you know how to play, but where should you play Go? If you're nervous about playing and want to get a feel for the game, I recommend checking out gosumi.net. It's a website where you can play against an AI and just kind of test the waters a little bit. Here's just the opening page. Click the 9x9. Anything lower is not really useful for practice. And then click the level 0 AI. I'm going to play an example game here. Links for everything down below, as well as some additional resources that you can use to learn to play Go. Keep in mind the 0 level AI of this game is actually pretty strong. It might be a little frustrating for you to play, but just use it to kind of get a feel for the game. Once you do that and are ready to play Go against other people, I recommend onlinego.com, which looks something like this, where you can then play against people. If you want to continue playing against computer, you click on computer, select new ball, and select play a game. There are also some resources on the side here, and there are some beginner exercises that you can look at, which are very helpful. I'm curious to know how many people played their first game of Go after they watched this video, so please leave a comment down below telling us how it went. If you have any questions or just want to talk about Go, come join our Discord, link below. That's it, folks. Everything you need to start playing Go. Thanks for watching.